The wheels are in motion. The wheels go round and round and round and round and round. The wheels are in motion, and the floodgates have opened. We are off to the races. It has now become the Mike Tyson fight a shaggy dog story. Right? Shaggy dog story. Specifically, the comments made by many prominent people in the sports media and someone who should know better by George Foreman. Now, this is the second time we're getting a Maller monologue out of George Foreman, but if you did not hear what he said, and I'm talking recently, maybe not. So Big George, who in a previous episode of the show we talked about, he was very critical of Mike Tyson. You might remember that. We did a monologue about it last week going into Thanksgiving weekend and the lead up to the fight, which was for charity. And so now, after watching Tyson fight, George Foreman is singing a different tune. Big old George, by George Foreman. He now believes that Mike Tyson can become champion of the world at age 54. This after watching Tyson get back into the ring over the weekend. Quote, if he gets in shape like he's in now and then gets his timing back and all the things fall into place, he can have an opportunity to fight for the title. Foreman gushed of Mike Tyson. The same George Foreman who days earlier had questioned mental illness as a reason for Mike Tyson coming back. Foreman continues. If he, meaning Tyson, can be managed right, a champion, the right champion, will come to him. And if the right one comes, he can knock him out. Close quote. Now, a number of contemporaries in sports media have taken this Mike Tyson story and run with it. They've taken the baton, and they are trying to win the relay race. Everyone's trying to one-up each other. It's a urinating contest, and I'm going to compliment Tyson more than you. I like Tyson more than you. And it's over the top, nauseating at this point. They've turned, my friends in the sports media, they've turned a pretty decent story into a story that now I hope doesn't happen. All these heartfelt speeches and, Mike Tyson returned to glory and all that. So let us discuss the question here, and I want to talk about this with you. The question, what are the actual odds? I've seen George Foreman. I've seen a bunch of these guys on radio and television, the talking head crowd, talk about Mike Tyson coming back and being the champion of the world. What are the actual odds, being realistic, that Mike Tyson can become the heavyweight champion of the world in his 1950s? Now, in his 50s, not the 1950s, in his 50s. So what are the odds on Tyson? Now, I'm going to set the odds. I'm going to be realistic about this. Common sense, very commonsensical here on the Ben Maller Show. So I'm setting the odds for Mike Tyson at plus 9,000, which is not zero, but it is 1%. I'm leaving a 1% chance, and even that is being generous. So I have shampoo, toad venom, and to honor the man that helped us win a game show a few minutes ago, our friend in Oceanside, James, convalescent home. We will combine all of these things together. Now, to lead off with, there are a lot of moving parts to the Mike Tyson story. Think of it, if you will, the circus act where you're juggling plates, right? You're juggling plates. If Mike Tyson wants to get a title fight, I am convinced he will get it. So that part of it is not up for debate. I am convinced that if Tyson decides, you know what, I actually want to do this, I've got an itch that needs to be scratched, he will get to scratch that itch. That part to me is set in concrete. Now, the actual winning part, that is the problem. So to rephrase that, Mike Tyson, because he is what's known in the industry as a meal ticket, there'll be a lot of people that want to ride his fame, his coattails, and get it done. The great John Sterling, the voice of the Yankees, he had a great line about this. He said, the hardest part of any of these things is to sell the soap. You got to sell the soap. And in boxing, Mike Tyson sells a lot of shampoo. He does. He brings the circus hype. He sells pay-per-views. He sells interest and curiosity. It's like the circus, right? It's a death-defying acts of courage under the big top with Iron Mike Tyson, not for the squeamish or the faint of heart, right? A pit of curiosities and all that. There are not many boxers left who would get Joe Public to open up their wallets. Now, I admit I'm biased here. I'm of the age where I grew up. When I was a kid, Mike Tyson was a bigger-than-life figure and this mythical creature that in the days before the internet was like Mike Tyson was the baddest man on the planet. You didn't want to get within 10 feet of Tyson. He was living the life and that whole thing. But Tyson's on that very short list. There's not many of those big box office draws that are left. Now, furthermore, for guys, again, around my age range, it is nostalgic, right? It is nostalgic. You wonder, what does Tyson have left if he was really in a real fight, a competitive fight, not some sham California rules where you have to have a draw and, 3 judges see 3 different fights. We know that Tyson's got a lot of goodies in his bag of tricks. We talked about some of them in a previous episode, the standard quirky diet. He's got the Fugazi diet. He's using the stem cell therapy, which a lot of these very wealthy athletes have been using in recent years, the hyperbaric oxygen chamber and all that. Tyson has also turned to some more bizarre rituals to get himself in shape. He told a story before the fight that he has been using toad venom, that has been his new addition there. In addition to the standard weed, which he smoked leading into the fight, Tyson has dabbled in toad venom, which it's the Colorado River toad. And it's a psychedelic, hallucinogenic drug, obviously, which is found in the Colorado River toad. So I imagine like our friend Queen Roxanne out there trying to find the Colorado River toad. But Tyson rhapsodized about how wonderful this toad venom was. And all of that stuff is great. Right? For Tyson, he loves it. He believes in that mumbo jumbo, and good for him. Right? To each their own. Live your life. Do what you want. But Mike Tyson, let me be very clear here. Should he get that matchup, we think if he wants it, he gets it. We're almost 100% sure on that. Mike Tyson would be pummeled against any legit heavyweight worth their salt. They would need to buy a body bag for Mike Tyson. The only reason I am leaving a 1% chance that Mike Tyson can get her done is because of the shady underbelly of the noble art of boxing. The term, you probably heard it, taking a dive. You know where that originated? That's right, pugilism. The term taking a dive is a boxing term. And you know what it means. It's obvious. It's rigging the outcome of a fight. It's one of the reasons people watch these fights with a skeptical eye for the regular guy is because so often this still happens to this day where there's funny business that happens in boxing. So if this was straight up and each boxer was trying to win, there was no funny business, Mike Tyson would have no chance. But taking a dive, well, then all bets are off. You get that bonus, and let's say you're down the list, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, any of those guys, right? 1 payday is good, but how about 2 paydays? How about you have it in the contract, you have to have a rematch, automatic rematch clause triggered in the contract, and then you can make it happen. Right? No, so here's what's going to happen, right? I mean, we can talk about these different fanatical scenarios and all that. You can get into a steaming hot bowl of alphabet soup with the WBC, the IBF, the WBA, and all these different boxing organizations. But Mike Tyson is not going to zig. He's going to zag. His next matchup, he will be knocking on the door of convalescent homes, is what he's going to be doing. He will be saying, hey, can I please get a hold? I would like to talk to James in Oceanside, who works at the nursing home. They're making all the delicious food, because I'd like to see if he knows somebody who wants to fight me. The most likely matchups are Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, and Riddick Bowe. One of those 3 stooges will be the next matchup for Mike Tyson in another charity fight. Now, I will throw one other wild card scenario, which gets the full Maller seal of approval for Mike Tyson. And that would be another one of these redonkulous charity matches where Mike Tyson gets into the ring with Conor McGregor. Now, I would like to see that. It wouldn't be a real fight. It would be a sham fight. McGregor's not a real fighter. And Tyson, even at his age, should do very well and would do well in that situation. There's not a huge difference size-wise. McGregor would have to gain a bunch of weight, actually, if anything. And if not Conor McGregor, how about, what's that, Logan Paul guy, one of the Pauls? One of them. So I'm all for that. But no, he's not going to get in the ring with the Gypsy King. Forget about it.